All right, final question for you, gents, because, Tony, I know that you made some recent comments about the hierarchy, or rather your lack of disappointment in the hierarchy of Arsenal. How much success do you think Arsenal Football Club will have with Mikel Arteta and the current infrastructure which is set in place in terms of recruitment and the day-to-day affairs of the club? We've seen what Arteta can do for the players on the pitch, but that isn't everything when it comes to running a prestigious football club like Arsenal.
No, I think they need decent relationships with your sports director, and there's only two ways you recruit: through your academy or you buy the players in. And, you know, we have had a major upheaval at the club where we've let go of 16 scouts, and it just appeared to me that maybe they were using too many agents were getting involved in the recruitment process. And I questioned, I love Adu, I played with Adu, and I just questioned his ability and his experience, really. He's never built a European or a football team. And whether he, you know, I'm hold my hands up to say, let's have a look at him and give him a chance, for sure. But it's just the case of Steve Rowley, chief scout, 40 years, 13 scouts gone. Now you've got another guy that's calling the shots. And every club that's grown, and this team at the moment is very much similar to the cup team that I was involved in the early 90s. You know, we were nowhere near the league, but we had a fantastic defence. And we had a guy that knocked the goal in, Ian Wright, knocked a goal in for us, and we won a couple of cup competitions, but we were nowhere near. Even the European Cup Winners' Cup we won, you know, with that system, but we was nowhere near the league. So for if we're going to grow into being the best team, which I want them to be, Arsenal, for me, the greatest club in the world, and if you want that, you have to develop them through your academy or buy them in. So you need the finance to be able to do that, and the right recruitment team to actually do that. Yeah, I don't think you can question the coach at this point. I think he's getting the most out of that group of players. So Arteta, thumbs up. Let's wait and see how the recruitment goes.
There's this lovely sort of symmetry of what happened with Arsenal in the 90s, because there was that long-term manager, which was George Graham, and in the more present-day analogy, it would be Arsene Wenger, and then Bruce Rioch. Present day would be Unai Emery, and then Arteta. Now, I'm not saying Arteta's going to be the next Arsene Wenger, the second coming, nor that he will last that long, because in the current climate of football, it's very unlikely. But still, it was Wenger that brought success back to the club. I mean, do you think he will be a long-term success?
Sorry, Adam, to interrupt, but you've got to, you overlooked £50 million that Daniel Fisman invested in the club, and my salary got trebled. You know, so there's an element of actually, you know, you got the most money, you get the best players, and this game's about players. So you have to invest in your squad, and you know, look at Liverpool, what they've done at Liverpool. You know, it's just been the recruitment. He's a friend of mine, and you know, David James there. You know, Michael Edwards down at Liverpool has done a remarkable job with Kenny Dalglish as well in the board. The recruitment's been phenomenal, but they've had the cash as well. They've had the money injection at the right time, right players, and you know, people like Robertson didn't cost anything at all. What a player he is! He should have got Player of the Year last year. If you don't get Player of the Year this year, then I'm walking out. You know, defenders need. He's a phenomenal left back. He's been anyway. He's too brilliant. But you get what I'm saying, Adam. You know, you've overlooked. You know, a coach can only do so much. You know, you've only got. I was coaching down at Portsmouth, and we had some great players, and we win the FA Cup. You know, all them players went, and I became a rubbish coach. Do you know what I mean? You go to another club that ain't got a good players. You know, all of a sudden you're not very good. It's about players, this game.
I will back that up, what you've just said, because I was doing a little bit of a forensic analysis of Liverpool's finances. When Klopp took over, finished 8th. Obviously, they were out of Europe, which you could say probably aided them because there's fewer games. But the net spend was extremely low, and he brought in, I think, about 5 players at the time, first-teamers. The most expensive was Sadio Mane at 34 million, but they were also selling some players. And they finished 4th. So already we saw
a wage bill, madam. It's your wage bill. There's a direct correlation between your wage bill and success. Okay, so they took the wage bill up. That's what they did. It's not so merry you get the signings, and they've had some big signings in that time as well. The wage bill is the direct correlation between that and success.
The 4th to 1st place, which they are this year, has seen them spending money on Alisson and Van Dijk. So I can completely understand what you're saying, because you could see the more money Liverpool spent, forget net spend, it's just the amount that they actually spent on players, you could see the success that they're now recouping. And, of course, the European Cup last year.
So when you see players like Ramsey leave and Koscielny leave, you kind of go, alarm bells for me. You know, give them what they need and keep them at the club. You know, we want to build a team to win the league. You know, if you want to build the team, you give Aubameyang what he needs and you go and get some more top quality players. And you don't feel, another thing is you don't feel plug the holes with kids coming through. You know, arguably, why'd you buy Pepe when you've got Saka? You know, do you understand what I'm saying? You need to plug the holes in the appropriate areas. And looks like we found a goalkeeper that's been at the club already. You know? So he might come through, you might save yourself a fortune anyway. You know, but I still think they need a couple of defenders, a couple of real tough defenders, and a Gilberto or a Patrick Vieira or Manu Petit right in front. And I think they've got a top 4 team.
Did they have the money to spend? I mean, Arsenal were the first, I think the only Premier League club to insist on wage cuts during the lockdown period. I mean, finances seem to be a big issue for the club. It's one thing to want to buy players. I'm sure that everybody wants that, but whether they can actually do it is another issue. I mean, we've seen what's happened to other clubs. Portsmouth, for example.
Well, you've got to balance your books, you know, but they've got a huge wage bill, Arsenal. And, you know, you look at Leicester, even though Leicester had a huge wage bill as well, and there was big investment from the outside, you know. But they generate a lot of money at the club. They generate, and there's nothing stopping them, you know, going into the top 4 financially. The owner could quite easily do that if he wanted to do. At the moment, I don't think that's the aim or the direction of the club. But we'll have to wait and see. At this moment in time, I got the feeling is that they're going to try and balance the books and try and ship around to try and get some bargains and stuff, which we already know that's really difficult in the current market. If you're not in the Champions League, you're not in the Europa League, there's other big clubs in Germany, France, you know, you end up with 20th pick, you know, and if the player comes available, you go, oh, you know, you're behind, you're down the run and stuff. If you're not careful, you slip out the contenders, yeah.
It's interesting because I think we've highlighted both Manchester City and Arsenal, how good they are going forward. But City also need a bit of a rebuild, JMO. Am I right in saying that? I mean, Kompany, for one, was never replaced. Mendy has proved himself not to be able to stay fit for an extended period of time. He might do that now. Fernandinho's the wrong side of 30, so is Aguero. He seems to be getting injured more frequently. Jesus has never truly stepped up to the mark which Aguero has left. I know that's a huge pair of shoes to fill. He's the all-time top scorer for the club, but I mean, still question marks remain about him. Who's got the bigger rebuild job, Pep or Arteta?
Well, yeah, I think the thing with Pep is, I mean, he's so intense. As I said, I mean, usually you can tell that from his post-match or pre-match, post-match interviews. I mean, this guy is intense, and to work under that kind of intensity has to take its toll on any kind of player. It doesn't matter whether you're one of the best in the world or not, because it seems to be relentless. And therefore fatigue, mental fatigue, physical fatigue, whatever, you would expect that's going to happen, and therefore Manchester City will always have to be on that rebuilding process simply because of the way that the manager does his thing. You know, to identify individual players, the likes of Aguero, I mean, yes, he's a talent, he's a top goal scorer, but you could also argue that he's been in that position whilst Manchester City have become the force that they are. And if someone else was to replace him, younger, I can't put a name to a player, the likes of Foden coming through, for example, even he's going to start scoring loads more goals, or a lot of goals under the current system, because you have a manager with a tremendous footballing brain and pedigree, a club even with recent events, with the money, as Tony says, to be able to afford to buy buy that success in whatever buying success looks like. So I think Arsenal's slightly different, as Tony said, you know, being a cup side, who are you going to attract anyway? And therefore you're going to spend more money on, dare I say, less valuable players, or having to spend a ridiculous amount of money on a top talent just to get him to play for you. I think Manchester United, you know, looking at them at the moment, they need Champions League football because they've got the heaviest wage bill of all of them. And without Champions League football, they could be, whether they're in trouble or not, will remains to be seen. But they need that Champions League football, and they're having to pay, or had to for the last couple of years, pay an extraordinary amount of money to get players to want to come to the club. Arsenal can't continue to do that, arguably. Manchester City possibly could, because, again, their financial structure. So who needs more? Everyone's going to need more, because if you don't do it, you know, by not spending and standing still, people will overtake you.
All right, gents.
And that's a problem every club faces.